I watch. I will watch things.
In other words, everybody knows there's a difference between saying we can have property matters for a public purpose and saying this is our property. Let's move forward.
And she has some life. She's got a lot of life. Oh, my God.
Our problem with the claims, we're supporting the policy that says, this is our alley. If you don't want to have it appraised, buy, sell it, we're willing to sell you that.
That's the policy we should take. Hey, we're going to be different. It's you.
I ain't even found out.
Go back all those.
These were all
That's it.
then we came back and revoked. Not all of them. This I didn't realize I missed it. I haven't know stepped up there. Either way, from the plan. What y'all want to do?
I'll tell you. I was, but I couldn't get it on the and bring it back here. What's his next one? Great TV show. With a Freedom Fest, with a Freedom Fest show. And just imagine he's like, he's all.
Okay, so those are dedicated to parking. They're dedicated to but if we acquire it, that we purchase them, it can be donated to that purpose in a better position. We bought legal, we acquired them for a particular purpose. Do we no longer need parking in our town? I think
Putting aside plain department distance from Rivertown that is not necessarily feasible. It's like really last year when our best may or may not ever be required. It would be beneficial for the city.
I'd like to.
Thank you. Good morning. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We come to you asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Fill us with your grace as we gather to make decisions for our community and the city of Kenner. May you guide us to always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Continue to remind us that all that we do here today and all we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Councilmember Wilmot, could you please lead? Yes. Yes, I'm going to, I'll do that after the pledge. Yes. Councilmember Wilmot, could you please lead us in the pledge?
Rule change, that's all.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, and I know there are several special intentions. Councilmember Brannigan.
I would just hope that everyone would keep the Boyd family in their prayers due to the untimely death of Nancy Parker. She was an asset to our region, not just the city of New Orleans, and did some really, really awesome stories about the region, and she will be missed. So please keep the Boyd family in your prayers.
Councilman Segura, do you have any special intentions?
Sure do, thank you. Also, I was going to do Nancy, but the mayor, Councilman Brannigan Hayes, and I went to her services this morning, and we all have our thoughts on it, but I'll yield it to George. Secondly, I'd also like to then bring to our attention the first female governor of our state, Kathleen Blanco, and her passing, and the good things that she's done for our state, particularly during Katrina, which was a very tiring and stressing point for not only her and the whole state. So wish her family the best after this. Thank you.
Councilman Wilmot?
Yes, I ask that you keep in your prayers Chaplain Ward, who led the House in prayer for many, many, many years, decades. He does have some serious health issues right now, and we ask that you keep him in your prayers, that he has a good recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilmot. Mayor Zahn?
Just to echo what Councilman Brannigan Segura has said, look, Nancy Parker was always a good friend. She was always fair with her reporting. I believe we posted that the night that she passed away, particularly with the city of Kenner. She did a good job covering Freedom Fest and when I was with the parish Uncle Sam Jam. So I appreciate those times. I appreciate everything that she did. Of course, Governor Blanco also, but also someone that myself and Deborah Foshee and Ed Rapier worked with very closely in the parish. The former CEO of East Jefferson Hospital, Dr. Mark Peters. I believe the service is happening right now at St. Catherine. Very good guy, good CEO, and he was a good friend of the three of us. Also, Chris Fortunato, our deputy CEO, really did a lot of good work for the hospital, and we're really mourning that passing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Please be seated.
Madam President, you have a quorum this morning. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B 14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Under resolutions, motions, and other items from the floor, I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brennan, to amend the agenda to add item 9A, a resolution authorizing a public hearing to be held on August 23, 2019, during the regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of the City of Kenner to allow citizens of Kenner the opportunity to comment on the Kenner Police Department's application to the United States Department of Justice Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program fiscal year 2019 local solicitation of $13,597 for the police officer overtime for law enforcement activities and criminal investigations.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to object? Please come forward. Hearing none, all council members, please vote. Motion,
Two more? Motion passes 7-0 to add item 9A to the agenda this morning. Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of August 8, 2019. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. Item 2A is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Friends of Rivertown on October 4, 2019 and October 5, 2019 at 504 Williams Boulevard, being property owned by the City of Kenner in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 2B is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Friends of Rivertown Incorporated on September 13, 2019 at 512 Williams Boulevard in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A, application number 2178-19, Kenner United Incorporated, to hold a public gathering on September 28, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. for the purpose of a cleanup Kenner Day at Veterans Park in Kenner, Louisiana. Madam President, the mayor would like to speak for a brief moment, if we could acknowledge the mayor.
yes, Mayor's on.
While I don't have an issue with cleaning up Kenner, because we do that every day, and if you notice, every Monday morning, we're throughout the city cleaning up Kenner. I have supported Kenner United in the past on the things that they do to clean up the city of Kenner, and I think they've had at least 2 of these. I know a number of you all have been to these with me, or with y'all, whatever. Past council people also have contributed to it. He has a lot of good sponsors, does a lot of good work to do that. I appreciate that. But I do have an issue that came up during the week. Someone brought it to my attention that the organizer, I guess the agent that's listed, Mr. Walt Benetti, actually on his own page uses the Kenner United symbol on political issues. Now, I don't think anybody needs an education on how the Secretary of State works with nonprofits. You cannot get involved in political activity. I am not saying that Kenner United does. No one leaves from this council chamber saying that Ben Zahn said that Kenner United gets involved in political activities. But when the symbol or the logo, whatever, is used on a personal Facebook page by the agent, I think we need to have Mr. Benetti come here, correct some of those posts, or start using a different screen for that. So I would just ask for a deferral, because I don't, look, this happened after my directors signed off on it. Had this happened, had I been notified before my director signed off on it, I would have called each one of you all and said what the problem was. I would have called Mr. Benetti. It came to me after the director signed off. So now it's in y'all's laps now. So before this council puts the city in jeopardy, or Kenner United as a whole in jeopardy, I would think that we probably need a deferral to have Mr. Benetti answer a few questions. Again, this is nothing against Kenner Cleanup Day. While I think that our city is clean, I still encourage citizens to clean up the city of Kenner. So I'm just asking, I mean, I can't ask for a deferral, but I had a discussion with 1 or 2 of the council people. I think Councilman Wilmot's going to ask for that, and we'll get through this. Thank you. And you also, by the way, you also have a packet. The legal department has a packet that was, copies of the packet that was given to me, and the legal department has it, and so does the deputy CEO, deputy CEO and CAO. And I think the council clerk does too. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor Zahn. Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Madam President. In lieu of what the mayor just discussed, I would like to go ahead and put up a 1-meeting deferral. I understand that the cleanup day is set for late September, so we have plenty of time to reschedule this in order to accomplish the goal. So, but I do think that the mayor needs to resolve those issues with Mr. Benetti. So I'm going to ask for one meeting deferral. Thank you.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot. Do I have a second to a one-meeting deferral? Second by Councilmember Segura. Any discussion on the one-meeting deferral? Councilman Carroll.
Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam President. I agree. I think, I know Mr. Benetti and his group. They have done a number of cleanups for the city of Kenner in District 1, but this isn't something just applying to Mr. Benetti, and as the mayor said, it applies to everyone, and we have to understand what's, from an ethical standpoint, what we can and can't do. So I'm sure after speaking with him, he'll understand that also and be able to have this event and have it go on and to continue to go on without mixing in, fusing in other aspects as a nonprofit. So I think it's something we can work out. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you,
President.
Councilmember Carroll.
Yes. Okay, council members, you're voting on a one-meeting deferral on item 3A. If you could, please vote. Motion passes 7-0 for a one-meeting deferral. Item 3B is application number 2180-19, Down Syndrome Association of Greater New Orleans, to hold a public gathering on October 19, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the purpose of a buddy walk, 1 mile fun walk at Lake Town. Item 3C is application number 2181-19, Gabrielle and Jamie Amador, to hold a public gathering on September 1st, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the purpose of a birthday party at 4074 West Louisiana State Drive. Item 4 is correspondence reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Appreciate it. A few little things to report to you all. We had another code sweep in District 1 in the 50 to 300 blocks of 27th Street, Greg Carroll's district. With the help of his office, we in the Code Enforcement Department, obviously, we had 42 violations and 7 court summons. Sometimes these are low, sometimes these are high. This is an area that Councilman Carroll and I concentrate on to make sure that the people that live there have a better living experience, and also these code violations start to dwindle down more. So, it's better to hear that they're going down. Right now, Greg, I don't see them going down, but it's just more work that we need to do out there. So I appreciate the work from your office getting this done also. June sales tax, very good news. For this month, which is the month of June, because we're getting it 2 months later, we're up 5.46%, which is almost $168,000. For this time last year, we're up 6.70% from this time last year, which is an actual amount of $410,000. A little bit over that, actually. That's really good news. And I haven't reported on the sales tax in quite a while because it does take a while for us to get it and get these reports. But, these ribbon cuttings are actually working, guys. This is what we're doing. That's why we posted on Facebook. We want to show people and other businesses come to the city of Kenner. So as we see these things start to go up, the work that this administration, that this council is doing, along with our police department, because people want to come to a city that is safe, and our fire department is a good department. 2 good departments attract these people with our work. So I want to thank every elected official in the city of Kenner for doing these things and helping us continue this. Just being handed something also, and I was going to forget this, and I don't want to forget it because before I go into Freedom Fest to talk about the support from the parish, I do also want to thank Dominic Impostata and also Mark Spears for helping us with 2 fire vehicles that we just received from the parish, from their surplus, just this week. And that's not to mention probably the ones that I've missed, because when I said this, I wanted to do a picture after these vehicles are put, striped with Kenner logos on them and put them out there. I was informed that we're getting so much from Dominic and Mark that I probably can't keep up with. And she's telling me right now 3 recreation vehicles were right before that. So once we get all those done, I'll invite all the council to a time where we can take a picture with Mark and Dominic and say thank you to Jefferson Parish, thank you to those 2 parish council people, and every council person. We have Keith Conley, who's also on the council at large, who's from the city of Kenner, along with everyone else that's voting 7-0 to make sure that the city of Kenner gets those. I don't care what people say, because you will hear naysayers out there say, oh, those should go and be sold. They're not going to get that much for them. And Kenner, a Kenner resident, Kenner taxpayer, is a taxpayer of Jessamine Parish. So maybe not in that millage, but they're still a taxpayer of Jessamine Parish. So we do have some right to get those vehicles, and with the help of those 2 council people and the rest of the 5 other ones, they continue to deliver. Speaking about those guys, Mark, Dominic, Paul Johnson, Ricky Template, along with the rest of their council, have stepped up and have each donated $50,000 to our Freedom Fest. That's a huge amount to put on this event next Sunday, September 1st. I urge everyone to come. The gates open around 3:30. It goes on to about 9:30 at night. It is a nice event. We have Clint Black working in back order. Clint Black is the closing act. We have High Valley before him. We have John Schneider right before that. And we have our own Jenna Hunt opening up the event with the national anthem at 4 o'clock. So if you've never come before to the residents of the city of Kenner, I know all of you all have, please come out there. It's free. You do have to pay for parking. It's just the way it is. It's the parking lot of the Pontchartrain Center. You will have to pay for parking. It's $5. But for $5, if you park, you get to see 3 major acts with a local Jenna Hunt for free. So I like those numbers, and it's going to have a lot of food vendors. It's going to have a lot of new attractions this year that they're working on. I look forward to it, and it's a good event. And it's the day before Labor Day. It's a good time just to say, relax with the family and have Labor Day off the next day. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor Zahn. Oh, I apologize. Councilman Brennan.
Of the last council meeting last night, and Councilman Segura had challenged you to a wrestling match, and I'm just trying to see if we could get that at the Freedom Fest possibly before. Okay, just
Again,
anywhere. Just 'cause I think that would bring some money into the city that.
Councilman Brennan, when there's a challenge, I'll show up.
I think they call that a gauntlet.
Yes, ma'am. That will conclude the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding a resolution authorizing a public hearing to be held on August 23rd, 2019, during the regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of the City of Kenner to allow the citizens of Kenner the opportunity to comment on the Kenner Police Department's application to the United States Department of Justice Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program, fiscal year 2019, local solicitation of $13,597 for the police officer overtime for law enforcement activities and criminal investigations.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to open the hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this matter? Please come forward and state your name and address. See none. Motion to close hearing. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to close. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Council members, please vote. Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Segura.
I was just going to offer the chief any moment if he wanted to expound on what this is.
This is an annual grant that we apply for and receive for overtime when criminal investigations need. It's unfortunately last year said the same thing, that it's steadily going down. You know, it was more than double, several years ago. But as with everything, the grants are drying up. But this is used for police overtime to follow up criminal investigations.
Thank you.
And it was put on from the floor because there is time frames that you have to apply and get things in and around. That's why, we're up against the clock. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Foshi, The timing is perfect to make this comment since I'm not sure whenever else it would have come up, but I think you need to know that the police department goes out of its way to apply for every grant possible. I probably get 3 grants from the police department compared to everything we get from the city combined. Somebody is over there spending their time researching. So you just got they're not sitting on their laurels. They're out there trying to find every dime and every nickel they can to be able to support their operations. So I'm very impressed. Everyone comes through my office. They're always at rush because they always have federal deadlines, and it's pretty impressive. I think you just need to know that they're really out there working to alleviate the taxpayers' burden, or at least the local taxpayers' burden, by providing any funds for themselves that they can. Thank you, Ms. Fushi. Thank you, Chief Glazer. Motion by Councilmember Segur, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A, a resolution authorizing the placement of temporary signs on Kenner public property advertising Kenner Cleanup Day, hosted by the Kenner United Incorporated. Madam President, I have a request by Councilmember Wilmot for a 1-meeting deferral. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember Segur, on a 1-meeting deferral. Any discussion? Councilmembers, please vote on the deferral. Motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution accepting federal funds from the United States Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration Transportation Enhancement Program in the amount of $423,400 to provide streetscaping for Williams Boulevard from Kenner Avenue to Reverend Richard Wilson Drive, and providing for the local match in the amount of $105,850 for the Department of Economic Development.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. I see Councilmember Carroll would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam President. And just to get a description for everyone and probably myself, what exactly does what is it again?
Streetscaping.
Scaping. What exactly is streetscaping? Thank you, sir.
Yes, so we're very excited this project is finally coming to fruition with the state. So what's going to happen is you're going to get uniform brick sidewalks on the east side of Williams Boulevard, going from railroad tracks all the way to Reverend Richard Wilson Drive. Get brand new landscaping, so the current palm trees will be crepe myrtles to match the current crepe myrtles. Get brand new LED lighting. The current light poles will be stripped and painted high gloss black to match all the other street signs throughout the district. You're going to get high visibility crosswalks at Reverend Richard Wilson Drive, so you have a bus stop currently right there, a Jet and RTA stop, which should do a lot of good for us since we have the farmers market right there on LaSalle's Landing. And then at each intersection on Williams Boulevard, you're going to get brick imprinted crosswalks, which hopefully the stamping of them will act as somewhat of a slowdown deterrent for any of the vehicles passing by when it rumbles. And then you will get new landscaping, as well as the median will also be brick imprinted as well.
Yeah, and that's I kind of understood most of it, but I think it was important for the public to know exactly what all that entailed. Also, one of the questions from a few years ago, and thanks again for all your hard work on this, as it relates to an upcoming drainage, sewerage project that we have been trying to put into place for a number of years, that we didn't want that to do something and then have to come back and have to do it all over again. Right. Where are we as far as coordinating that?
My understanding is that it shouldn't conflict, but Tom Schreiner would be able to tell you more about the drainage project.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Snyder, please.
Okay, that project has been on hold. I say on hold because FEMA has decided to ask for more information. We're having to go back and tell them a lot of history on the project because there are new employees with FEMA now. We're having to bring them up to date. We're still waiting on that. So as far as the timing on that project won't get underway till next year sometime. There'll be a slight overlap of the two projects, very minor. So we don't expect any issues with regard to that.
So just to be clear, the ambiance, the upgrades, particularly to the sidewalks and all that we're going to be doing, won't affect the drainage or sewage projects that we're going to get sometime soon next year from FEMA.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and that just makes common sense to have that. So you anticipate next year to have their response back to us, and then us to be able to put that into place as it relates to the drainage around Williams Boulevard, because as we know, when we get a little rain, it affects that area tremendously.
That's what our schedule shows right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Danks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Wilmot?
Yeah, Mike, don't go far. I just wanted to really thank you for this. This is a huge improvement, and I know Councilman Carroll, I appreciate your efforts as well, but this is, I mean, we have a federal dollars that are going to come in as a result of this, and we have a local match, and these improvements are going to make a huge difference in that whole region. So that's really, really nice. Hats off to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, administration, as well, for putting this together. So
The other thing to keep in mind with that project as well is we have additional funds through the same program that we received in 2017, which will extend all the way to LaSalle's Landing as well. So you get a brand-new parking lot and a trailhead facility across the street as well. So everything will be connected and uniform finally. So it'll be a really, really nice improvement for the historic district.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yes. Before you walk away, I have a question for you. So you mentioned that there is bricks, or is it concrete stamped bricks, or is it actually going to be bricks?
It's gonna be stamped. We pushed really hard to have actual brick crosswalks in the streetscape, but at the time when the funding was approved, DOTD had some issues on Harrison Avenue, so they had kind of were nervous about doing actual brick, so they went with the stamping. We opted for a pattern that's going to match the actual sidewalks, as well as it being a little bit deeper, because the whole reason we wanted the actual brick crosswalks is it is nice and aesthetically pleasing, but it does act as a deterrent for any kind of vehicle traffic down there, which we had done a sign study quite a few years ago about how many actual speed limit signs are on that streetway. But this should add a little bit of a speed deterrent, which is great because you have a lot of restaurants and people are crossing the street into the parking lot, so that was an issue.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it. Ms. Fushi?
Sorry, it's a question I think I should know the answer to because we've talked about it before. Does the new trailhead include the restroom facilities for LaSalle's Landing?
It does not. So you weren't allowed under that specific grant to request it, similar to the recreational trails grant, but it does include a full bike trail station, so the shelter, bike pump, all the tools associated with it, and then a bunch of new furniture, and then resurfacing that parking lot. That parking lot is very chunky, and we do have a lot of people that walk in and out of it for the farmers market.
But we will be able to, with our own funds, take advantage of that to add that to the project,
Yes.
particularly the area where we have access to water that used to be in those fountains.
Yes, and the preliminary design for that Phase 2 of LaSalle's Landing still has space available for that facility. The way we set up the actual bus shelter is that it would come off of the existing ramp that is by the KPD Training Center, but it does have that allowable space for the bathroom because it's absolutely needed, especially for the cyclists and the people at the farmers market.
Thank you. Councilmember Carroll, would you like to speak again?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Davidson. You know, first, I'm just going to say that since my tenure here on the council, this administration has kept with the promise to me that we are going to do as much as we can for the most historic part of the city. And through their actions, through projects like this, through the additional restaurants, it's coming to fruition. And that's all we can ask for. The restroom is something we may not think is important, but if you're out there gathering for different events and you have to cross the street to go use a restroom, that is not a pretty picture or sight.
Right.
To see people do that.
We're seeing increased ridership at both of those stops right there as well. So I'm definitely happy on the Phase 2 portion that you're going to get 2 actual bus shelters for those 2 bus stops. And especially there's a gentleman who rides his mountain bike every single day to work and gets on that bus stop and he locks his bike up to the telephone pole. You know, and so that picture of his bike went inside that grant, and that's going to be one of the good things as well, is he'll have a safe place to put his primary mode of transportation. But you do have a lot of people walking across the street, and people don't necessarily follow the speed limit on Reverend Richard Wilson. So that was a good concern of us. So altogether, you're looking at just north of $700,000 worth of improvements in that intersection as well as that street.
Yes, and that will, a couple of years ago it had started to become a problem of people just kind of hanging out there, and I understand that is an issue for the whole entire state, particularly the city of New Orleans and here, and we never got to that level. But I think as we improve the area and add the different stations for different things, it will alleviate that from happening more. So this will be a win-win for the entire city, because we always want people from all over to be able to come into Rivertown, and this is something else. So thanks again for all the hard work. Thanks for all the different departments for doing it, and we look forward to a very vibrant Rivertown areas for years to come.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Ms. Foshi? Is this the same project that also includes the high visibility crosswalks and the improvements at the intersection
Yes.
to protect pedestrians?
Yes.
So part of the plan, Councilman Carroll, I think we may have talked about, is we already are addressing pedestrian safety in that location, but in addition, as part of the match that we have to provide to DOTD for the flyover, we are taking over the portion of Reverend Richard Wilson, which will include that intersection. So we will be able to both affect the speed limit, time the lights. We're going to be able to do a lot of things in that location that will make it safer. So while we do want the restrooms on that side, and we will get there, we also need to improve safety, because even when you getting there is still a challenge. Even if you only have to even if you're not crossing to go to the bathroom, it's still difficult to get across that intersection. So intersectional improvements and pedestrian safety are a high priority, both with this grant and both with what we're pursuing right now with DOTD.
Parts of Reverend Richard, we're going to start at Williams and we're going to go west. How far, or do we know that yet?
No, their portions, they have a map, a statewide map of state-owned rights-of-way and roads that they're willing to turn over to the local political entity, and they will pay you to do that, because what you're doing when you acquire a road is you're acquiring a lifetime of maintenance responsibility. So what DOTD has started doing on the list of streets that they think are non-critical, as it were, they will give that to you and pay you. Well, they're not going to pay us. What they're going to do is apply it to the flyover account, as well as that's part of the funding for the fire station property as well. But as we acquire it, it will be just Reverend Richard Wilson. We already own Williams from Reverend Richard Wilson all the way to Airline. Is that correct? Okay, all the way to Airline. We are not going to have north of Airline, but we will be picking up from is it Fillmore? What does Roosevelt turn into?
Fillmore.
Fillmore, all the way at least to Daniel. They're trying to get us to pick up more than that. So right now, we are assessing that road to figure out what the actual future maintenance costs will be, and trying to get them to give it to us in the most pristine condition when they turn it over, and then we'll assume the maintenance responsibility. So the minimum amount of Reverend Richard Wilson we're going to acquire in this transaction is from Fillmore to Daniel, but we may well end up acquiring from Fillmore to the parish line.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's fantastic, and obviously once we receive it, it's our responsibility to maintain it, to make sure that it stays pristine, and it looks like the city of Kennewood would want it to look. So that's going to be obviously all of our responsibility to make sure that. But thanks for the hard work. We look forward to that section to continue to improve it.
Once we acquire that road, we will also be in a position to place culverts in any location where we feel the ditches are dangerous, where we cannot do that now because we do not own that roadway.
Yeah, and there's a number of things we've talked about before that have come up. So this will give us an opportunity to put that into place. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Ms. Dents. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilmot.
Wanted to mention, I know that our colleague Councilman Carroll had been a part of a committee to improve this historic area, and some of these things overlap to some extent what they had wanted many, many years ago. So I appreciate all your hard work and efforts, and I know there was others in that committee as well. And some of these ideas overlap, and I know Mike Inks, I had worked with you in the past as well when I was on the state level, and I saw some of this stuff coming through, and just good stuff, man. I really appreciate all y'all's efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilmot. Councilmember Brannigan.
Whoever at the state came up with the brick stamp thing versus putting bricks in is a very smart man because, or man or woman. But because when you go down Harrison Avenue and you look at the bricks that popped out and how they're fixing it, they're taking asphalt and just pouring it in the middle of the bricks, and it looks terrible. So that's going to be, I would think, an easy way to keep the street looking fine.
It'll definitely save us on maintenance. We'll
Oh,
just have
there's
to-
no doubt.
Once it wears down, you just go recoat it with the thermoplastic, and it'll definitely save us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Brannigan. Seen anyone else? Okay. Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,578. An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Han Enterprises Incorporated to furnish and install new play equipment at Gladys Playground in accordance with sealed bid number 19-6483 and an amount not to exceed $43,565 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilmember Hayes, seconded by Councilmember McKinney to approve. Councilmember Hayes, you'd like to speak?
This will be the first of 3 tot lots that we improve in the equipment. We're also going to be doing improvements at Laketown and at Erlanger. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Great. Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Hayes, seconded by Councilmember McKinney to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,579. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of ballistic body armor and accessories to outfit newly hired officers and replace expired body armor from Baton Rouge Police Supplies and Barney's Incorporated, utilizing state contract number 4400006358 and an amount not to exceed $50,000 annually for the Kenner Police Department.
Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Segura to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,580. An ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from All Flags and Flagpole Incorporated to supply flags in accordance with letter bid number 19-1581 and an amount not to exceed $15,000 for the Department of General Services.
Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 12,581. An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Planet Recess Incorporated to furnish and install new playground at Veterans Park in accordance with sealed bid number 19-6481 and an amount not to exceed $68,475.30 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Councilmember Segura, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Pitfield, if you could answer some questions for me.
Yes, sir.
Would you go over what this is going to cover? Because I know we've had some variation changes, so just if you let me know.
So at the time, obviously, you know, when we first started going through looking at the aging infrastructure, Veterans Park Playground was in disrepair. It's been closed for the last several months when we had an inspection done on it. So we roped it off for safety reasons, and obviously our office with the city and Councilman Segura have been looking at it, and this is going to furnish. This is going to be we're going to remove the current construction wrapped, closed off playground facility and put a brand new structure in that is going to be similar to the other structures that are within the city. This was an older one that was still on some shredded up rubber mulch. This is actually going to be a concrete foundation with a safety surface, brand new structure with a shade canopy on it.
Sure. And then also, what in the discussions that we've had about some other improvements, I've asked to get some quotes for a splash park. Are we still progressing with that?
So once this gets approved here by this council, in order to kind of keep the look similar, once we can share that design of how this structure is going to look once this is approved, we will meet with the splash pad company and get something that is a similar look. And yes, that will be a great improvement to Veterans Park to add some type of water feature, especially with, well, we're dealing with 112, 114 degree temps. I'm sure they're going to love it.
Sure, thank you. In the rest of the park, some work, I know the old greenhouse place, what we looking to do?
Part of the demo, when we do the playground structure, is going to be the demolition of the greenhouse, which all the utilities have been disconnected from it. We're going to work on that and that barn structure as well. It's aged infrastructure. We're actually, if you look out there now, our general services with Mr. Glorioso and his crew have been doing a great job on rebuilding those electrical boxes that have been on some of those that have been, termite ridden or just rotted. So we're working on that. Also, they have been working very well with the water filtration system in the lagoon. As you know, probably 3 or 4 months ago, we had a large fish kill in that lagoon due to the algae bloom that occurred. So we're working on that park. So, look, we get the people that say that the park's been forgotten. Absolutely not forgotten. I don't know if you want to get into that. We've done a lot of work in the back on the military vehicles and the planes. This park is definitely not forgotten.
Sure. And only the bridge, some work probably needs to be done.
So the structure around where the edging of the waterfront, yes, some of that wood, again, it's wood sitting in water, is starting to rot. So we're going to address those as well. So it's a progression thing.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to point out for the viewing that we are addressing it and
Absolutely.
making progress toward that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Segura. Thank you, Mr. Pitfield. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 12,582, an ordinance authorizing the utilization of existing Jefferson Parish contract number 55-17786 with Genuine Parts Company doing business as Napa Auto Parts to purchase vehicle batteries not to exceed $75,000 annually for the City of Kenner Departments of Fleet, Police, and Fire.
Motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15F is summary ordinance number 12,583, an ordinance approving an agreement with Siler Instrument for upgrades of the Star Master Control System and Motor Controller at Kenner's Planetarium and an amount not to exceed $133,003.32 for the Department of General Services.
Motion by Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Madam President. I just had a question on it. If you could describe the part itself, Mr. Glorioso?
Yes, this is a part for the whole system in the planetarium. It's the main guts and control computer system. It's obsolete. The system that we have now is outdated. It's still running, but if something was to happen today and we lose something in the computer system, we'll be shut down.
So this is like the main part?
Yes, this is the brains of the system to keep the Xyler, to keep the space ball running.
Good. That's what I wanted to stress. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Foshi, Mrs. Foshi, you have the floor.
Sorry, this is the brains of the Star Master system.
Yes.
We still need to upgrade the projector, and so, right, that's
Yes,
the next
yes.
part. And that is very expensive, so we're going to embark upon a fundraising mission
Exactly.
over the next year, maybe two, to put together the funds. But right now, what you're purchasing is the bare minimum to keep the planetarium running.
Yes, this is phase one of what we're looking for, 2 phases.
Phase 2 would be the new projector, which will allow us to do what, if you'll explain that, please?
Well, it's gonna let us be the first hybrid planetarium in the state. It's gonna make us go 4D in planetariums. So it's a big upgrade, but I think it's well worth it. It's something that's really needed for the area.
Thank you, Mr. Lear. So I have a question. Have you sought any grant funding for seeking?
We have looked at some, and we've reached out to the gentleman that the name of the building is after, Mr. Louis Roussel, and he has said that he would match whatever we do. He wanted to know what the city is going to do first before he would be willing to give us any money towards it. So with this upgrade, we're going to, as soon as it's done, we're going to reach out to him and let him know what we've done. and see what we plan on getting from him. And I expect him to either match it or double it.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. There maybe have additional questions. Councilmember Brannigan.
Mark, do we know what the total cost to do the total upgrade is?
Yes, after this, after the initial brains of the system we're doing right here, the Phase 2 project will cost about $1 million.
Wow.
I think you have district funds for that, right?
Easy, easy.
Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Madam President, and Mr. Glorioso, thank you again. I just wanted to pass on from the Apollo 11 when we had in Rivertown at the planetarium, speaking to the people who are the experts from UNO with the science group and the astronaut, and all of those individuals, you know, they said or complimented that this is probably one of the better ones that they've seen, definitely in Louisiana, probably throughout the country. So as we go through and improve the equipment, improve all of this, I think our span should be not just Kenner, but to be able to connect with schools and other parishes and people to come in, because and also the city of New Orleans, because this is something that we have and we just have to build upon it. So what we're doing is fantastic, and we should always try to, like you're doing, to expand it to make it the best that
We do. Our numbers every year have been rising as far as school kid attendance, and we reach as far as the North Shore. We've been getting schools from Covington, Mandeville, Madisonville coming to our system, to our facility. So, I mean, we do reach out.
Yeah. Max, another question. They had mentioned also about a telescope. Is that like a separate part, or is that part of also this piece that's going to control some of the?
No, that is a separate part of it. It's connected to the complex down there. It's not in operation right now.
Is that something we may not have looked at it yet, but it's something we can look at, because the weather was bad that day, so you wouldn't have been able to do anything anyway, you know, that people could have seen. But
we do have an observatory down there it's been out of operation since Katrina, and it would need some work to get it back into operation.
Right. So, I mean, just adding on to what you said and what I said, could that be something we can start looking at that too, to see what does it costs money, and that's always a concern, challenge, but at least look at it and see.
Yes,
about
that's
adding
something
it
we can address
overall.
that too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Ms. Foshee.
Sorry, it's become the Ms. Foshee show. I just wanted to let you know, because we're talking about both funding, what's the total project cost going to be, and where we're going with this location. I personally did research on the funding before we got to the point of even putting in the money for the software, because we had to make a decision at that point. Do we abandon this project because it's so expensive, or do we put what little money we have into it and start getting sponsors? There are a number of sponsoring organizations out there which will sponsor upgrades to planetariums, but they are tied to educational purposes. So one of the things we used to do here in Kenner, I think we had more space, but we would bring teachers in at night, and we would provide them with a dinner, and we would provide them with a study materials, and we would teach them a lesson or a couple of lessons, and they would take away information both from us, and then they would also bring their classes back. So we collaborated more closely with the schools, I think, in terms of being part of the educational process. Once we get this up and running so we know our software is not going to crash, our next step is to do that. Even if we do it on a very small basis, and even if we only do it for Kenner schools, we identify a science unit that we can help science teachers with in 3rd and 4th grade, and then we invite them all come in on the evening. We're going to give you some lunch or give you some dinner, and we're going to give you some resources. It helps get the word about us out, but it also helps us create that educational component, which will then put us in a position where we can compete for some of those more major grants. So that I wanted to connect the dots on that one.
Thank you, Ms. Foshee. I just want to say that I would suggest, since Kenner Discovery is located right next to the planetarium, perhaps reaching out to Kenner Discovery to partner with them. They are a health science academy, and I think that would be right in line with what their mission is. So I'd just like to suggest that. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Brannon to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is ordinance is an ordinance authorizing a public hearing to approve the proposed amendments to the fiscal years 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014 annual action plans of the City of Kenner Home Investment Partnership Act Home Grant for the Department of Community Development. Item 16B is an ordinance authorizing a community housing development organization, CHDO, agreement between the City of Kenner and New Hope Community Development Corporation to acquire, rehabilitate, and sell/lease 3 housing units in the City of Kenner using Home Investment Partnership Act grant. Item 16C is an ordinance accepting the bid received from Ellis Company LLC to furnish and install new modern shade cover at Erlanger Tot Lot in accordance with seal bid number 19-6482 and an amount not to exceed $48,000 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Geo Services Incorporated to remove and resurface track at Musbertolino Stadium in accordance with letter bid number 19-6487 and an amount not to exceed $147,000 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16E is an ordinance ratifying the purchase and installation of column pads at the Esplanade Recreation Facility in the amount of $7,108 by Han Enterprises Incorporated for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16F is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 1 John Deere HPX 815E MY19 utility vehicle from John Deere Company in the amount of $10,590.66, utilizing the State of Louisiana contract number 44000-17193 for the Department of General Services. Item 16G is an ordinance authorizing the utilization of existing Jefferson Parish contract number 55-17680 with Air New Incorporation to purchase air conditioning filters as needed in an amount not to exceed $45,000 annually for the City of Kenner Department of General Services. Item 16H is an ordinance authorizing the utilization of state contract number 44000-16237 with United Rentals North America Incorporated for rental construction, maintenance equipment, generators, and other related equipment on the state contract and an amount not to exceed $75,000 annually on an as-needed basis for the City of Kenner Department of General Services. Item 17 is reports from the council and/or special committees.